And I agree with you. It's one of these things that these are exactly the type of solutions with the correct use case, as you said, right? Which can make the difference where the benefits possibly, I dare say it, outweigh the negative consequences of it, which is, as you said, the jobs is an obvious one, right? So these radiologists and people who prepare that data currently possibly manually could be out of jobs, but partially it's again an ethical issue, not an ethical AI issue, but ethical issue as a society that when innovation comes, we don't look at it holistically, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is we need to look at what the positive impact of it would be. We also need to identify what the negative impact would be and prepare those people for betterment, right? And that's where Tatiana's earlier comment, like being kind as a society, focusing on being what means to be a human, as opposed to being selfish and saying, I work in a hospital, I need to cut costs. This AI solution over the next 5 years is going to cut costs for me and make it better. Yes, great. I no longer care about this radiologist, Miss or Mr. Goodbye. Is that good enough as a society? And yes, there's stimulus packages, but you give somebody money, does that really help them? I think you need to do more. We need to give them a plan, right? To say, okay, so you used to be a radiologist. What are the other fields where you could go? Could you learn to be what Marcia just described? Could you work with startups like that? Because you come from that background, for God's sake. You've got years of knowledge. Take that and leverage that in some shape or form, right? Any other thoughts around that?
It's also that, like I said before, AI and all of these processes that are being automated are not meant to substitute us humans. They're
Yeah,
meant to enhance our abilities.
yes.
So if you have an AI, doing the diagnostics, that doesn't mean that you don't want the final gut feeling diagnostics of from a doctor, right? But in this case, what you can have is well rested, trained
Thank you.
doctors, a team, right? Checking out all of the diagnostics that the system is churning out,
Yes, thank
basically.
you. And I completely agree with you. It's one of those things where everybody's a product of their experiences, right? Whether you're a doctor, whether you're an AI expert, whether you are a professor, whether you're a researcher, whoever you are, you're a product of your experiences. But sometimes we forget to look at the perspectives across the table because we get so focused on the one thing that we are good at and trying to find applications of that we forget to consider the holistic view. And to me, that's where the orchestration piece, and I'll be very honest, that's kind of what I focus on, right? Half the time people look at my resume and they go, what do you do? What do you specialize in? Well, I specialize in looking at strategy. And what strategy means to me is it's looking at your resources, looking at what you don't have in terms of resources and capabilities, looking at that holistic view and saying, okay, how do we use what we have very positively towards the best, call it return on investment, call it with the best use case in mind. But then at the same time, what are you missing? What do you need to bring in now? And slowly, obviously, just like many of you, I started off in the business area, right? But COVID, quite frankly, has encouraged me to explore it more at an economic level and say, okay, so all these people that are using jobs, if we could only just talk about them when we're talking about deploying these systems, we could actually help them instead of just giving them a 2 week notice or whatever it is that's given to them and saying, go sit on stimulus because now this is done. Wouldn't it be nice to have that conversation earlier on when we're considering bringing these systems in, because then these people can actually use their existing knowledge to help you scale it, help you deploy it, right? And then at the same time, policy changes. That seems to kind of happen in the silos, isn't it? It's only recently that people have started talking about this because of COVID. And part of me worries that at some point, let's say the COVID situation either gets normalized or the vaccine gets rid of that. One of the two things will have to happen. And what happens then to these conversations? Do we go back to how policy was designed in a silo? Or are we going to have these conversations together? and bring more holistic things in mind, right? So very, very interesting conversation. Let me keep
Yeah.
going because